All right, this is how I made some audio for my AIs in the iWalls project. Go to the AI base character located right here in this folder right there. And then you want to add an audio component to them, like right here, and set up your attenuation settings however you want for default. And then also, there's different ways of doing this. It's just how I did it. So I wanted to trade out different sounds, different audio cues, because I'm going to have them do different things. And so they're going to have an audio reaction for seeing the player, for hearing a sound, and also they're going to play different audio cues depending on what sound they heard, the tag, like the noise tag. And then they're also going to play sounds for when they are hostage, death, discovered the body, when they reset their search routine, when they are searching, when they're suspicious. I also have a separate audio component for their radios, so they have walkie-talkies. And we don't use the same audio component for that because we don't want to cut out their voice while the radio is playing. So it needs to be two different ones. The And then of course I have, so you set up however many different types of let's say categories of sound that they're going to have in different sound base objects with the sound cue set. So like in this sound cue, you'll see that I have a switch just in case I have different types of death sounds that I want. And then the randomization of all the different sounds. So like if we play it, we have all of our sounds randomized, modulated, and then we can switch depending on what we set up in the graph. And I'll show you that in a minute. But and I also have attenuation overrides. So like, for example, if I want to override this attenuation default settings right here, I can do that in runtime by preparing these variables, and then we'll set them in the graph whenever the sound actually plays. Um, so I'll show you the graph in a second, but before I do, you can add this to the AIs as an option because it's the controller for the equipment sounds for the main character. But you know, to add some additional realism and sound, you can just add this in. And what it'll do right here, if you look on the graph, it will get the reference of the character it's attached to, and then it will call these events depending on what happens. So when they equip, they'll play a sound, they'll equip their gun, it'll play that sound, reloading sounds. So reload pistol, reload rifle, rolling. I don't think they even do that. That's for the player character only. Um, and then whatever else Jacob set up, you know, in here. But I mean, you could just straight up add this and it's ready to go. So all right, so over here, what I've done, so once you get these added and kind of set up, you got at least one sound-based object in there with a sound cue as default for that, and then set that up inside the sound cue. Um, this is optional, so you don't have to add a variable for overriding attenuation, but you know, if you want to control it during runtime, then you would do that. Once you do that, you're pretty much ready to go and set up some custom events. So um, what I did was I have different things. So you can see here, each one of these is like a different category and what he's going to do or what sound is going to play and all that stuff, depending on what has been triggered. Some of these are interface calls and some are just straight up events built into this character that, let's say the the controller can call on those events and then fire them off that way. So for an example, let's look at the one that I'm going to show you as an example. So like the when another AI detects over here in the controller, you'll see in the controller, mine will look different than yours, but you will have this right here, which is sets up a it changes the state of the AI if he has detected another dead AI. Okay. This is not in. This is what I put in to actually communicate with this base character and pass these variables on so that I can set up logic for them to hear, um, how they're going to play the sound depending on what conditions. Okay. Make sure he's not dead. Make sure combat time is less than 0.1. Detected enemy time is less than 0.01. And then if true, we're going to, if he is dead, so basically if he is dead is true, we're going to stop playing this voice audio. So we're going to stop his voice. So which will allow anything that was playing during that time to stop. And then what will happen is if he dies, he'll play somewhere in here. Anyway, somewhere in there, he'll play the death sound. I forget where I put that actually. There's several places that he can die, or that come out of death. Like I mean, up in here after the start dying sequence, and then you can also do stuff off of this right here, which update character health points. So uh, you can plug in some logic based on what the current health is right here and build out some stuff that way. But death reaction audio, okay, right here, and then right here, death sounds. And if the health equals, so this is health, the health variable. I guess I forgot to label it. I don't know, let me label that real quick. If health is 0 or is death, just to make sure that he's only doing this when he dies, okay? False, do nothing. True, do this only one time because there is a death tick. So he's still going to tick on a different graph. So anyways, I just make sure he only does this one time. Then it's going to set the sound to be the death sound, which is this sound base right here. And if you open that up, we have a switch depending on what type of death. So if he explodes and dies from the explosion, it'll switch to that and play these sounds, which are screaming like that. And then if he dies from anything else, it'll play those sounds. So set integer parameter, that's setting the switch inside the sound cue. This is adjusting attenuation settings during runtime. So if you want anything specific that overrides the default voice attenuations, you do that. And then you set your voice, your volume if you want to, and then finally play the sound. So, so anyways, back to detecting the body. We're doing essentially the same thing here. I'm making sure it only does this once. And since he can detect bodies over again, like he can come across the body a second, third, fourth time, I did set up logic to handle it because he is in the behavior tree going to react to that. And so he'll start looking around and stuff when he detects the body. So you really do need him to make a sound every time he does that. So that's why I put in a delay to reset the do once, and then he can do it. And, you could set up like a random. There's different ways of setting this up, and this is not a perfect system by any means. It's just like what I did so far. Probably fine tune this and polish it later, but doing the same thing. Set the sound, attenuation, volume. I guess I needed a delay in there for something. Make sure that the sound switches smoothly, and then play it. So, and then what I have here set up for discovered body is this sound cue, which is, it has a switch. So basically, I had to mix like a radio static sound like this to make it like he's on the radio, and then he'll play.
Whoa! Hey! Hey!
An initial reaction, and then he'll say, what what we want.
I've got a man unconscious! I've got a corpse here!
And then I have it set up to where Eventually I'm going to have it to where this is them being knocked out and they're not dead. And then I'm going to move these down to here. And it's going to be when they are dead, they're going to have different reactions and say different things. Because I'm going to have it to where I don't just kill the AI, but I can also make them just like being knocked out or whatever. All right, so you have all that set up. The next thing you want to do is actually make sure that you have an interface created, a new one, so that you can control a lot of these things. Now, you probably could use an interface that's already that this is already subscribed to. Like you see here, these are, you have a character, you have a camera, interactive objects, but really you probably want to create your own new one so that it doesn't get confusing and you can be more focused on what you're trying to do. So I just made AI control, and inside of this has all these different functions that are going to pass along variables based on the controller and the perception and all that stuff, like whatever's happening in the game. So for discovering the body, we have right here, this one. And what I want to get is detected the player, combat time, detected enemy time, noise tag, strength of the noise, and intelligence. Probably some of this stuff I don't even need for this particular function, but I'll trim it, and fine tune it later. But that allows you, once you get into the controller, to go ahead and set up have the controller assigned to that interface and also have the base AI character assigned to that same interface. That way we can send a message to that interface, and then we can pick that message up over here. See right here, I'm using the interface event. So so what I did was I came into this. You won't see these two. You'll have to make these execution lines or whatever. You'll have to make one. I have an illumination system, so I only want him to really detect it if he's close enough and he is also in the light. And I'll show you an example of that in a minute when I play it. But basically, it comes through this, successfully detected. He's going to set some Blackboard variables, and then this isn't connected. So you'll have to just drag this execution line into that output so that you can come through, because you want to come out of this graph for anything else that you want to do. That's just the best way to do it. And then just put this interface call in there. Make sure this is the target right here. It's the controlled pawn of this self controller, so it's only going to get its controlled pawn. And then pass whatever variables you need to set up the conditions for playing the sound. And then what you'll have is you'll have all these right here in the so call that interface, and then set up your logic, and then probably collapse the graph like this so everything stays neat and organized. And then this is what I was going over a minute ago, where this is where the actual functionality of playing the sound is. So let me double check this is everything. So yeah, that pretty much covers it. I'll just show you an example of how that works. So the guy right there is the one that I'm going to shoot. And this guy, he's going to detect it. So it's taken here my gun. I'm going to wait for him to go around that way. And then I'm going to shoot him in the light right here so that he can see it. So
I don't know what to say. You're getting way too sloppy.
He's going to come around.
Whoa! Somebody attacked one of our guys!
So I have a little issue where he's not aborting his current... He's not resetting his state the first time he sees it.
We're in a heightened state of alert.
Usually what will happen is he normally will look around. So he'll get his gun out, and then he'll look around the area, and then he'll go back on the path. But it's kind of hit or miss. I don't know why. I gotta figure that out. See if he does it.
Hey, I found the man killed.
But at least you can see that it. Okay, there he goes. All right. So he's gonna look around. It doesn't work perfectly, that's for sure. I got a lot of work to do still, but he is looking around.
You find anything?
He's playing some other audio.
Holding for interrogation.
That's the radio sound. So he's kind of on alert, you know, like when this guy's dead. But if I shoot the light out, I'll show you that.
He's not here.
So he's gonna reset, go back on his patrol path. So if I wait for him to get far enough away, I
On
can shoot this
radio
light,
dispatch.
and then he won't see
Understood.
it.
Code green.
But that's just in my game. It's not in your game. I mean, if you put an illumination system in there, then sure, it'll work that way, but... Alright, so he didn't hear that, but now, look, he's at 0 right here. And he's just gonna walk right on by like nothing happened.
Holding for interrogation.
So you can do other things too, like
I'm being shot at.
play a sound when they hear something. They go into their investigating state. For me, I've got music set up, but I have a whole another actor controller that you put into every level that controls the music depending on what's happening in the game.
Look around.
See, you hear him talking.
I need somebody to watch my patrol.
Maybe I'm seeing things.
Then he'll reset, and the music will reset.
Tell your men we've been
Of course, we
authorized
have
to
different
use
sounds,
force
like
for all
we get the knife
intrusions.
out. Oh shit, here.
Who's there?
What in God's name do you think you're doing?
I forgot I failed the mission. But anyways, that's an example of the sounds that I set up, and it works pretty good. So the whole concept is basically just get your audio component put in there, get you a sound base to start with, put in make an interface so that you can send information back and forth, add the interface to this character, the base, and then also add it to the controller. And then you don't have to do it here. Like I have set up sound control for a lot of different things. Like for example, you'll see this section right here, hearing, okay, and comes through. I get my tag of the sound was reported. I make sure that they're not in any states that I don't want them to react to the sound. So, like for example, if he's a hostage, he's not grab and kill. Like you don't want him saying sounds when you're trying to kill him that they're not supposed to say. You know, like if you ever play Ghost Recon Breakpoint, you could be like killing a enemy, and at the same time he'll say, "I think I heard something." You know, so they could say some very out of context things, and you want to try to stop that from happening. So I just set up some extra conditions to make sure that we can enter the state of, and then what I did, you'll see like only 1 or 2 of these functions. It was called hearing sequence version 1 and then hearing sequence version 2. So I just renamed it and then copied the functions right here. Okay. And I just made a different function that's set up slightly different for different conditions. So when he hears shooting, he's gonna, you know, make sure that this condition is true, this condition is true. He's gonna get the sound, set the blackboard, and then that's just some other shit that's unrelated. But and then once it comes out of there, as long as that was true, then we'll send the message to the interface that will be picked up over here. And so it's either calling an event from the interface, or it's calling an actual like custom event on the base character itself. You can do that. What was that? Okay, so my custom events right here are things that are only within this character, so they're not like receiving a notification outside of this character. This is receiving outside. That is, but some of these had to be put as custom events here in the because they only happen here inside this character itself. So like when he dies, let me see if I can find where this is actually being called. Because I forgot. So let's see where that is. Okay, so when his health, every time the health is updated, that's where that's coming from. And then this other one is coming from the hostage, is playing the hostage sound. And then this is when he's killed by other damage type. So that's either the explosion or the stealth. Because I'm not using zombies in my game. That's irrelevant to me. I don't care about zombies. But right here, I'm passing it through so I can continue that execution with a couple of variables right here. So that health is actually, where's it being set? Well, you just grab health, actually. That's a variable already in the blueprint. So you just grab that, the damage type, pass that through, and then you'll be able to come out of this right here into here with whatever you want to play the death. So then it keeps passing those in. Make sure that he's at 0 health. And damage type is like just an option if I want it for something. I don't know if I need it, but I just put it there. So, anyways, so hopefully that steers you in the right direction. I mean, I'm not going to be available to like answer a whole bunch of questions and shit like that, but hopefully this is enough information to get you started. And I mean, the concept applies to whatever game you're trying to make. It's basically just take the fundamentals of that and try to build a little system using these main components right here. Let's see, AI controller, the interface, base character, components, interface, functions, and then building it into whatever logic. See right here on site, I have it on this trace. So where he does the trace perception, site perception. I'm coming out of setting the trace perception as valid. And then I'm checking to make sure those same conditions from up here apply. If true, then we're going to send a message through the interface. And that is send message to interface has detected the player by sight. So somewhere in here. I may have not done that part yet. I may have just done the sounds only. But he is I don't know if I have sounds. I think I didn't set that up yet because I don't have sounds for like there he is or get him or you know, something like that for when they see him. But I do have it set up to where I can just go into the base character and call that function, which is I guess it's AI site reaction. Yeah, that's probably what it will be, which I don't see in here. Yeah. But what it does play is it changes the music. So also in my music controller, which is right here, I have it set up to where if we receive site detection, we're receiving this message right here from the controller. And it's coming in, checking conditions, making sure the sound isn't already playing, doing once, and then setting my sound. It's switching my sound. So it's basically switching my music over with some crossfades and shit. So this is a whole nother thing. I mean, I'd have to make a whole nother tutorial about how to make a music controller, and mine's not even perfect. Like this is still a work in progress. I'm not gonna say this is like a perfect system, but it does work. So, anyways, hope it helps later.